welcome to the Tolleson-Mack podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Southwest Farm Services. Eric and Mike and all them guys over there. What do you know about them guys, Brandon?
Moving a lot of hay all over the valley, all over the state, all over the country.
WeSellHay.com, right?
WeSellHay.com. Look them up.
Thanks, guys. Hey, and our special guest today, Mr. Hollywood Yates.
That's me.
That's you.
That's me.
That definitely is you. What's up, Wood? What you been up to?
Hey, man, I'm same old stuff, man. I'm just
Same
always
old
hustling,
stuff.
man. I'm always trying to find something, like trying to get back to the NFR and the boat barrel, trying to build a singing career that will equal Elvis Presley, trying to build a whiskey company that will equal Jack Daniels. I just, whatever's going to make me money today. You need a car wash?
Whatever we need, huh?
I'll do it.
As I'm sitting here and I look over at his many rings he has on, and on his pinky ring it says National Finals. What's that ring all about, the one there?
Well, that one there on my left hand, that's the first National Finals. That was my rookie year in the Wrangler Bullfights, and I went to the NFR against 5 world champions, and there's only 6 of us there. So I walked in, and the first day, Rob Smets looks around and he goes, "You're the only one in here without a gold buckle, Hollywood." And I was like, Yet. And then the one on my right hand on that pinky, that's my 1997 NFR. So that was the second time I got qualified for it.
So we got a guy on the podcast that co-hosts with us, Mr. Cesar de la Cruz.
Yeah.
He knows a lot about going to the NFR. Do you guys get pinky rings?
Man, no, I just got the biggest one they got.
Yeah.
Because that way you get the biggest stone. They don't fit at all, but nice to get the biggest
but they
stone.
give you guys
They do give you
rings?
rings?
Well, yeah.
I
I
missed
was saying it
that.
as a joke. Yeah.
In 2000, I think it was, or what year they changed and they went to that big one that looks more like a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I
Those
didn't
ones are
order
good.
it that year, and I've been trying to get it ordered ever since. And it's like they keep going back and forth between, well, we just got to get the PRCA's approval, and then the PRCA is like, yeah, they just they can do it. And then I go back to Montana Silversmith, and they're like, we got to get the pre-RCA approval.
Yeah.
I've been fighting to get that ring for like 7 years now.
Wow.
And that's the one from 2000?
Well, I think it was either from 2000 or it was after. It was like the 75th year or something. I don't know what year it was, but they went ahead and did like a commemorative. If you had been in the national finals at any point up to that point, you could order the bigger ring that has it looks more like a Super Bowl ring and has a big stone, and
It looks cool.
They're gorgeous.
I didn't know
That's
that.
why I just ordered the biggest ones I got.
I didn't even know. I was just making a joke.
You need to bring that to show us one of these times. That's cool. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
So Wood, let's start back. I mean, you like when I first met you, you were fighting bulls at Estrella Park over here, right down the road.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, when I was driving in here, I was like, man, this ain't too far from my old stomping ground.
Yeah, that's where we all met Hollywood Yates.
Yeah, 1985. I started coming out to Estrella Park. I was in high school, and some buddies of mine were bull riders, and they were like, "Hey, man, we ride bulls. We know that you work with horses." Because at the time, I was small. I was little. I was being trained to be a jockey. My grandfather had race horses my whole life, but they knew that I rode horses and was on the track all the time. And so they were like, "You want to be a bull rider?" And I was like, not really. I go, but being a rodeo clown, that looks pretty cool. Because I had been a singer and played every sport. And so that was, being a rodeo clown was something that I could still be an entertainer, but also be an athlete, and I thought that's pretty cool. And so I just came out and started protecting them. And, I think for the first 3 years, a lot of guys probably didn't like seeing me show up, because I didn't really, I knew the job, but I didn't get the job. Like I would get through the gap. I'd shoot that gap, but I would go so fast and my legs were so skinny, that the bull just never saw me.
Yeah.
So he would still hook guys, and so it took me a little bit to kind of figure it out and slow down and actually get good at the job.
So as you progressed from, say, Estrella Park, I'm sure you went on. I mean, there was probably, I think, some rodeo, like rodeos around here, amateur rodeos,
Yeah.
into the pros, and walk us down that road that got you to I remember watching the Wrangler bullfights, man, and I just the NFR was super cool, but the Wrangler bullfights were the Wrangler bullfights.
Yeah, and that's I wish they would bring them back to the NFR because it was such a special thing. But I started out at Strayer Park, and then I started doing some open rodeos, and then some like AJRA and high school rodeos and stuff, and then when I was 19 years old, I've been fighting for 4 years. I moved out to Oklahoma to help my grandfather with the horses and do some stuff out there. And I started fighting bulls out there for Larry Kephart, Dwight Frick, and Don Dees. And all three of those guys just had beasts for bulls. It's like, especially Larry Kephart. Larry Kephart could have had Bodacious and would have sold him because he didn't hook. And
He wasn't mean enough.
If they didn't try to kill you, Larry wouldn't own him, because he thought rodeo was about the big high horn brindles that just wanted to kill people. And so I fought bulls out there for 3-4 months, and then I came back, and Jeff Kobza came out to a deal that we were doing.
Yeah, we had Dennis Gates on here talking, and he's real good friends with Jeff
Oh,
Kobza.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think super highly of Kobza. I think
Jeff was hands down one of the best bullfighters of all time.
That's what I say.
Like,
We're talking about Globe.
Yeah,
and freestyle fight. I mean, he was a great freestyle fighter.
Tell him about when he fought Crooked Nose.
He fought Crooked Nose in El Paso, Texas, and Crooked Nose would always run past you. Like, he would come out and just blow right by you. He would either freight train you right out the gate, but if you threw a good fake and got around him, he just would blow you by you, go to the back end, and then turn around and come back and then hook up. Well, Jeff knew this, so he just walked all the way to the back of the arena, and he put his arms up in the panels, pulled his hat down, and he always took a dip right before he would call for him. So
That's just cool.
Takes a dip of snuff, puts it back in his pocket, leans back on the panels, calls for him, and he pulled his hat down real low. And he said he pulled his hat down that low because he only wanted to be able to see about 10 feet in front of him.
Oh, wow.
He said, because if I moved any further away from that, he said he was going to kill me. So he said he called for him, and he could just hear him coming. He goes, it was like a freight train. I mean, he was a big, heavy bull. And he come, and he finally just pulls his arms off the panels, starts walking out. And when he saw him, about 8 feet right there, he threw a fake, went to that horn side, made a couple rounds, and Crooked Nose got his horn up under him, picked him up. He rode his head all the way down the arena to the bucking chutes. And when he slowed down to make the turn at the bucking chutes, Jeff just slid right off his horn and got in that pocket and just fought the shit out. Probably one of the best bullfights ever against Crooked Nose.
Wow.
And, but yeah, so Jeff came out the deal that we were doing, and he watched me, and he was like, holy shit, where'd you learn to fight bulls? And he had already seen me fight bulls before, but he was like, there's a different man in this arena now than what I saw, 6 months ago. And I was like, well, I moved out to Oklahoma for a while. I said, and I went to work for some guy. He goes, well, who'd you work for out there? And I go, well, 3 different guys. I go, one was Larry Kephart. He goes, that's all you need to say. He goes, if you made it out of Larry Kephart's pen, he said, then you can fight bulls.
Yeah.
And so, that's when Jeff said, hey, do you want to get your PRCA card? And I was like, well, yeah, sure. I didn't even all these kids now, it's like they fight bulls at a bar for a month, and then they want to, get their PRCA card and, think that they're good enough to, make a living at it. And it's like, I fought for 5 years basically before Jeff Kobza told me that I should get my PRCA card.
It's like Tom Brady telling you should go play football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was like, well, if you think I'm ready, and he goes, you're ready. And so he called Dwayne Hargo up, and Dwayne and him.
Another stud.
Yeah. So back then you had to get 2 NFR bullfighters, a NFR bull rider, an NFR stock contractor, all to sign for your cards.
Really?
And so I had Dwayne Hargo, Jeff Kobza, Cody Custer, and Walt Osball sign for my card.
That's a VIP of the who's who, right? So how does that work with like now, like you're saying, these guys that are fighting bulls at a bar, and they want to get their PRCA card. How does that work? Do they call up PRCA? Do they call up Hollywood? Who
well, they have to get I believe the way it's working now, they have to get letters of recommendation from a couple guys, and I think they've kind of gone back to where you have to be NFR or at least a circuit finals bullfighter or something, and then maybe a bull rider as well. But you got to get basically 3 letters of recommendation. You send that to the PRCA, plus you send $500 to the PRCA.
Shocking.
And a list of rodeos that you're working, at least 5 rodeos that you're working that year. And then the PRCA will send somebody out to evaluate you, and you don't know what rodeo they're going to come to. That's why you send 5.
Yeah.
And then they'll come evaluate you, and you either, at that point, the evaluator can say, yeah, I think they should have their card, or no, I think they still need a little work. And then if they do well enough that they do get that okay and that head nod, then they get their card, and it's more like a permit for the first year. They have to do at least 5 rodeos, and then they get, I think, reevaluated at that point by somebody that's at those rodeos, maybe the rodeo judge or something. And then if they do well, then they keep their card.
So do they call on you to go evaluate guys? I think
they
you
do.
told me one time.
Yeah, I've evaluated a few, and a couple got them. And the one guy that I just evaluated, he didn't get it. And I gave my suggestions to him on the paper. I didn't rip the guy apart or anything, but I just said, he needs more work, and he needs to maybe go to a good school. Because that's the other thing. There's, I see guys, they'll fight bulls for 2 years, and then they'll have a bullfight school, and it's like, it'd be like somebody roping for a year and then putting on a roping school.
You see it happen from time to time.
Yeah, it's like, what, you don't know anything. You've not been anywhere. You've roped 13 steers in your life, and it's like, and these guys, they're going to schools that are put on by bar bullfighters, and it's like, bar bullfighter, he's, fought,
bar bulls.
Bar bulls.
So you put on bull schools?
I do every now and then.
Yeah.
It's like I put one on the last one I did was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I don't put on them, I don't put them on a lot. And that's mainly just because I don't have the stock that I need. Like Cody Webster, he's got his own fighting bulls. He's got a great arena. He's got, so he could decide to put on a school today.
Yeah.
And, and he would have 15 students there because everybody wants to go to Cody's school. But it's like, I don't have that stock, I can get some bucking bulls out, which I prefer to teach. I would love to put on a week-long school, 5 days to 7 days, because I want to teach cowboy protection. Because if you want to be serious about this business and last a long time, that's where you make a career, is cowboy protection.
Yeah.
But I want to teach cowboy protection plus freestyle, and that way the guys that don't want to do cowboy protection, they come learn their freestyle. So you got to have fighting bulls for that. And then I want
a good set of fighting bulls, right?
Yeah,
you can't have something ranked that's just going to tear people apart.
Cody's got like yearlings, 2-year-olds, heifers and stuff
he's
like
got
that.
Everything from like saying heifers and babies up to some rank shit that's gonna hurt you. And but then I also want to teach them how to work a barrel. Because you go watch these bullfights. I'll say 85% of the bullfighters out there right now cannot work a barrel. They do not know how to work a barrel.
If not 90.
And I know that some of those guys will say, well, we consider that hiding. Like I got into it with Weston Rakowski one night, and I don't try to down anybody that does this for a living.
Yeah. And
I got there, and I had talked to Weston, and was like, hey man, I missed you last night. I didn't come to the show. How did you do? And he told me he had a decent fight, but, the bull was a little cold trailing, and they got him up the fence, and he, was on the fence for 15, 20 seconds. Well, then there's another guy that night, had a great fight. If he would have just used the barrel in a certain way, he could have gotten he could have gotten out of, like, he got trapped, by the fence. And I'm like, man, if you would have just knocked that barrel down and rolled it to him, and Weston goes, yeah, we consider that hiding. And I was like, really?
How'd that go?
I go, and what do you consider it when you're sitting on the fence for 15 seconds?
Yeah.
I go, at least in the arena, be with the barrel, you're still in the fight.
Yeah.
You're still engaged. I go, but you climbed out of the arena. You left the fight.
Yeah.
And he just kind of like looked at me, and I'm like, Weston, I wouldn't have said anything about that.
Yeah.
I go, but if you're going to try to call us out because it's hiding behind the barrel, well, we're at least still in the ring.
Yeah.
You left the ring, you know.
Old true.
And, you know, but it's like I would love to teach them how to use the barrel, you know, use the barrel to one, catch a breath, you know, or if you got a hot bull that's just pushing, and he's pushing you to the fence every time, well, get behind that barrel, let him hit the barrel a little bit. One, wear him down a little. Or if you have a weak bull, and this is where I teach them a lot because I've had bulls that shouldn't even be in the fight because they're so old and they're not coming. But I use that barrel, I roll it to them, and I start hitting them in the head, and they, you know, they start fighting back. Yeah. And so now it looks like they're more aggressive. So now the bull's points just went up, you know, 2-3 points. Instead of a 15 bull, now he's an 18 bull.
That makes sense.
I might have just won the fight by 1 point because I was able to use that as a tool.
So it's, I mean, it's basically what these guys maybe need to be taught is it's not just put on the makeup and go out there and fight bulls. And I think for the listeners that are listening, I mean, I understand what you're saying when you say bar bullfighters and things like that, but we have a lot of bar bull runs in Arizona. I mean, and
it's a great place to get started.
No, and it's an awesome place to
I'm
get
not
started.
putting them down.
No, not at all. And that's
started.
kind of what I want to clear up. We're not trying to put down that game at all, but I will tell you from a guy that used to take bulls to bars, there are certain caliber of bulls that you take to bars. Like we're never going to load up, you know, a rank high headed hooking one that looks like he's about ready to jump the fence and head him on up to the Roadrunner. Like we're not going to do that. So that, you know, iron sharpens iron, right? So those guys are getting used to fighting those caliber of bulls, and then in a year, they're wanting to go to the PRCA where they are going to draw that one that's rank. You know?
Well, and not just that, but just like when I worked out here at Estrella Park, you know, they had some badass bulls. You know, they had bulls that
who was the stock hunter? Crystal Brothers?
Crystal Brothers. And they had Thumper, who ended up going to the NFR. They had Slam Dunk that should have gone to the NFR. I mean, they had some high quality caliber bulls. But I worked that pen for 3 years. I knew every single bull. I knew exactly what they did. I knew, you know, so it's like I got very comfortable. And that was the pen of bulls I knew. Then you go get into a different pen of bulls that you don't know anything about. And you're like, you know, or you go to a stock sale where you've got 20 different contractors bringing their stuff and you're fighting, you know, 20 different pens of bulls in 2 days. You know, I used to go to the Texarkana bull sale and they would start off with like 20 bullfighters on the first day. By the end of the first day, you'd have 10. Then the next day you would start with 10 to 12. And by the end of that day, you had 4. Maybe, you know, of us that were still fighting bulls because guys were just getting killed by all these bulls because they weren't ready.
That was like Ronnie and Donnie Sparks and Rumor and all those guys, right? They went to that Texarkana.
And it's, you know, and I learned a lot from the Texarkana bull sales. You know, it's like because I would get there with guys that had been fighting a lot longer than me. They knew stuff, and I learned. You know, I kept my mouth shut and my ears open, and I watched what they did. I watched the good things they did, and I watched the mistakes they made, and tried to not do the mistakes and tried to recreate the good that they did. You know, and it's like, you know, you're gonna make mistakes, and you know, like you and I were talking about watching Conor McGregor's deal. You know, and he's talking about, you know, losing. You know. You learn more from losing than you do from winning.
100%.
You know? So it's like you go out there, you make a mistake, and you know I didn't get to go to any bullfight schools. I learned by going out there and making mistakes and getting hit and getting my ribs broke and going, okay, don't do that again.
Let's talk about that. What kind of injuries have you gotten over the years? I mean, we only have like an hour and a half, but I mean, so if you
I'll just round it up. Basically.
Just round it up.
I've had over 140 broken bones. I've had 3 knee surgeries. I've had a torn Achilles tendon, and I got gored in 2006. And bull run a horn 9 inches into me. They had to do emergency surgery.
Where was that at?
In Salinas, California. And they did emergency surgery that night. I woke up the next morning with a colostomy bag. I had a colostomy bag for 2.5 months. Didn't know if I was ever going to get rid of that, you know. So I thought I thought my bullfighting career is over, my professional wrestling career is over, my stunt career is over. I was like, but I never once said, why me?
Yeah.
Because one, I know why me. I put myself in a ring with a Mexican fighting bull. But two, I just sat there in the hospital and thought, okay, well, what can I do now?
I was just gonna say that after knowing this guy as long as I've known him, and I've known him a long time, spent a lot of time with him, a lot of time in the truck, a lot of time driving. I guarantee you he wasn't laying in that hospital bed saying why me. He was saying, as soon as I get up, what can I do?
What can I do? And I had been a singer from the time I was 7. I was an Elvis impersonator at 7 and then just sang in my grandfather's nightclub. So I was like, I can always sing, without having to worry about the colostomy bag. And I was like, and I've been a comedy guy, I've been a rodeo clown now. And at that time it was like 25, 26 years. So I was like, I can just transfer over to stand-up comedy, So I bought books on how to write comedy, and that's when I was like, how have I been a rodeo clown for this long and not known how to write jokes? Like, I just got by on being funny,
So you said that you were WWE. You were in that.
I started at 30 years old. I just.
So this is after your NFR and everything like that.
After the 3 NFRs, we were in Casper, Wyoming, and met a WWE wrestler there. And then I bumped into him again. He was signing autographs at a Walmart up there. Well, then I bumped into him here in Arizona, like 6-7 months later at a Walmart. He's signing autographs. And so we get to talking.
Making a Walmart tour.
Yeah. And so we get to talking and everything. And he was an ex-WWF guy. And I was like, yeah, man, I go, I always thought it'd be cool to be a professional wrestler. And he's like, well, where do you live? And I told him, and he goes, man, I got a guy right here that can teach you how to be a professional wrestler. His name's Navajo Warrior. So he gave me his number, and I called him up, and he's like, yeah, man, come down. We practice every Thursday. And it was a junkyard. Literally, it was a junkyard, and they had a ring set up. And so I went down and practiced a couple of times.
What was the thought when you pulled up to the junkyard that you were coming to train?
I was like, oh man, these guys are gonna kill me. I was like,
and nobody's gonna find me.
Nobody's gonna find me.
They're gonna harvest me.
And
so it was like a real ring, like it was bouncy.
Yeah,
and it was a real deal.
Yeah, it was a real deal. And so finally, I had my wife come out one time with me and film me so that I could, I want to get better at this. And she filmed me, and I watched the film back, and I was like, I was only 185 pounds. And I was like, geez, I can't be a professional wrestler at 185 pounds.
Yeah.
And so I started working out harder, supplementing correctly, eating everything under the sun. And I went up to about 245 pounds.
Wow.
It wasn't a good solid 245. Like, I got pictures of me and Doink the Clown wrestling. And he's got me on the ground, and I've got like rolls of fat. And then another picture where I'm pulling a guy out of the corner of the ring, and I'm bent over, and my belly's just kind of hanging. And it's just like,
Chuck Liddell made it work.
Yeah, he did. But, so I did the independent scene from about 2000, and I was still rodeoing, so I just, when I wasn't hitting rodeos, I was wrestling, and it hurt my comedy though, because I got big, and my character in the ring, is this, like I had shirts made that said, what was it? I can't help it if your girlfriend wants me, it was just, and so I would get to rodeos, and my comedy went from self-depreciating comedy to making fun of everybody in the stands and making fun of everybody on horseback and making, it just, I was never
the team ropers loved you.
Oh yeah, they loved me.
By the way, when in Flagstaff that one year you were doing that thing, and
the SRP rodeo.
Yeah, this guy missed one, and you told him, what the hell was that? Or like, I was like, holy shit! But I mean, he didn't say nothing to you, so it didn't matter.
So
that was the first time I ever heard a clown really get on.
Good times, those Flagstaff rodeos.
They were. You need to do those.
I know. Shout out to Kemp.
Yeah,
Kemp set us up with that. He retired from Parrot Club at SRP, and when he retired, the rodeo kind of retired with him.
Oh,
man, he was always a good time.
It was a fun deal.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, I was rodeoing and wrestling, and I did that for, until I got gored. in 2006. So I was doing a lot of independent stuff. But about a year after, I was already starting to do stuff with WWE. They would call every now and then. It's what we call a jobber. You know, like they would call us to show up and basically get beat up. You know, or we would be security. You know, and then of course get beat up. You know, and that was just the job. And then after I got gored, I started kind of focusing on comedy and stuff. And then once I got rid of the colostomy bag, got back in shape, started rodeoing pretty heavy, went down to a show here in Phoenix, WWE, just to say hi to a bunch of my friends that were wrestling. And Shane McMahon was stretching out. He's like, you know, stretching like he's getting ready for a match. And I looked over and I'm like, got a match, Shane? And he goes, oh, no, I'm just going to cut a promo. And I go, you got to stretch to cut a promo? I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're old. And he like looks at me like he's going to fire me, you know? And I go, I don't work for y'all anymore. I don't have to be nice. And he's like, he goes, what? And I go, I'm not a wrestler anymore. I go, I'm not trying to get a job so I don't have to kiss your ass. And he goes, what are you doing now? And I go, well, I'm doing the same thing I've always done. I'm a rodeo clown, bullfighter. And he's like, shut up. He goes, I just went to my first PBR. He goes, have you ever heard of PBR? And I'm like, yeah, I worked the very first one. And so we get to talking about that. And I, you know, tell him about my injuries. And I told him, yeah, I go, that's why I quit wrestling. And I said, I got gored last year by a bull. And he's like, you have footage of that? And I'm like, well, not of the goring. I go, but I mean, I've got a little promo reel that I send out to rodeos. Like if you like rodeo, I go, I'll send you this little promo reel of mine, and you know it's cool. You know, see me get some good bullfights. You see me take some hookings, and he's like, "Man, yeah, send it to the office." So I sent him, you know, my little demo deal. Thought that was the end of it, and 2 weeks later, Nova, who was in charge of development at the time, he calls me up, and his name's Mike Bucci, but he was Nova, and he was also Simon Dean in WWE. But he calls me up and I'm like, what's up, No? And he's like, hey, man, I'm sitting here in Vince's office. And I hear Vince, you know, back there. And he's like, man, you're crazy. We love it. You know, isn't that? And, you know, and he's like, and I'm like, oh, I go, did you get the DVD? And Shane's like, yeah, man. He goes, this is good stuff. You know, and they're like, we want to bring you back in. And they go, we want to build this character. And I'm like, okay, you know, like I was done. Yeah. But so they started sending me out to Knoxville, what was it? Not Knoxville. It was in Kentucky. Where's the Kentucky Derby? I should know this. I was trying to be a jockey. Louisville. Thank you. So they started sending me out trying to be a jockey. Yeah. They sent me out to Louisville. They started sending me back and forth to Louisville to OVW, which was their training grounds. And they, you know, they were like, and we're just not digging it working. I go, you're basically trying to make me doink 2000, you know. I'm like, you know, I go, but I got an idea. I go, give me 2 weeks and then fly me back out. And so I went back out with a whole different look. I went in with like leather pants, you know, like leather. They looked like my jeans, but they were like black leather. Mm-hmm. I had cowboy boots turned into wrestling boots. I did like a Bret Michaels, you know, Kid Rock style, rock and roll cowboy hat and everything. And I go, look, I go, when I'm in the back cutting promos and stuff, I do it plain faced. I go, but then I put the war paint on before I get in the ring. I said, and we do this kind of rocker country guy. I go, and the merchandise that we can do, you know, I go, cowboy hats, sunglasses, guitar pick necklaces, you know, like, I mean, I had all these ideas for merchandise to make money. I go, I can actually sing. I said, so we can put an album out at some point. Then we can start the feud between me and Cena because he's a rapper. I'm a country guy. You know, you don't have talent. Anybody can rhyme, but I can actually sing. You know, I go, and so, man, we had it all kind of going. And then that's when American Gladiators grabbed me.
So talk us.
Yeah, how did that work? They just call you up?
Well, no, I was out. I was helping my friend Jan Tana spray tan everybody for the Olympia bodybuilding show, and so we were in Vegas. And
like the guys or the girls?
Both.
Oh, both.
Yeah,
okay,
both.
Nice.
So, but I had a break, so my wife and I were walking through the Fit Expo, and this girl comes up and she's like, "Excuse me," she's like, did you all ever watch American Gladiators back when it was? And I'm like, yeah, I grew, that was a
Everybody
great show,
did, yeah.
And she's like, well, we're bringing it back to NBC. It's going to be bigger, better, faster, stronger, and we think you two would make great gladiators. And my wife's like, on TV? And they're like, yeah. And she goes, nope. And she turned around and walked off. She goes, but you can go, So I walked over and talked to the producer, and I was like, well, I'm negotiating my contract.
So they didn't know who you
WWE. No.
were. They just
Yeah,
walked
they
up
just
to you.
randomly
Wow.
saw me and thought.
But that
"Man,
is
this
a
guy-"
good. If you think about it, I mean, if you're going to go try to get talent for American Gladiators,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
where you'd be going, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
and
talent-rich
that's
environment.
that's they had a big tryout there. They and I told them no, but they stayed after me for 4 days. They kept bumping into me, and so finally the last day, the day they were having their big auditions and stuff. Valerie Wagaman, she was competing in the Olympia, and she had just finished the Olympia, so she was going to compete. She called me up and she's like, hey, you gonna, go to the Glad? And I'm like, no, girl, I'm literally just climbing into bed. It's 7:30 in the morning. I've been out with Chris Angel and Carrot Top all night, and I'm
Really?
like I'm going to sleep. She's like, no, you got to try out, and I'm like, wow, and she's like, come on, when are we going to see each other again? Like, come on, just come hang out. We'll try out. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll meet you there. So I showered, went, there's a line around the block of people, and I'm like, I walk right by the whole line, get up to the front where everybody's signing in. And I'm like, yeah, I think it was Chad. I go, is Chad here? And they're like, well, yeah, he's inside. And I go, well, tell him Hollywood's here. He wanted me to come try out. And she goes, yeah, that's what everybody in line's here to do. And I go, yeah, I don't do lines. Go get Chad. And so they go get Chad. He comes out and he's like, hey, Hollywood, thanks for coming, man. And I go, I'm not doing this line shit. I go,
I'm out on the line, bro.
If you're going to make me stand in line, I'm leaving. He goes, no. He goes, just fill out the paperwork and I'll get you right in. And I go, all right. So filled out the paperwork, ran in, and did, you had to do so many pull-ups in a minute and this and that.
And you did that after partying with Chris Angel and Carrot Top?
Yeah.
That right there is impressive.
The last deal was a 40-yard dash. And so I do the 40-yard dash, and this kid clicks it, and he goes, holy shit, you're fast for a big guy. I go, yeah, just think how fast I'd be if I wasn't drunk. And he's like, oh, are you hungover? And I go, no, I just left the bar.
Yeah.
I go, where's Chad? He's like, well, he's talking to somebody else right now. I go, all right, well, I'll be over there asleep. So you tell him when he's ready to talk, come wake me up. And he walks over and talks to me for a little bit. And he's like, man, your numbers are amazing. He goes, we need you to stick around tomorrow. And I'm like, not sticking around. I go, I'm going home. I've been in Spain for 2 weeks. I've been out here for a week. I'm like, I haven't seen my wife, other than for 15 minutes yesterday, I go, I'm going home. And so I went home. They called me back the next day, said, can you come on Monday? Like, yeah. So I fly back up to Vegas, supposed to meet them at 10. I get there. They're like, we're running about an hour and a half behind. And I'm like, all right. So I go down to the bar. I walk back up there after about 3-4 drinks, and I cut a couple promos and walk out, go home. And they called me about a week later, asked me to send a bunch of footage of everything that I do. And then they had me come out and do a whole, this was a months long process. And they finally signed me to the deal the day before we filmed.
Up until that point in your career, was that the biggest thing that you've landed? Was that the cool thing?
How about you were like one of the first guys to ever be sponsored by Rockstar, right?
Oh no, Red Bull.
Red Bull.
I was the very first guy to be sponsored by Red Bull and Rodeo. And honestly, there was only 2 of us. I had Red Bull for about 3-4 years, and then Ross Coleman finally got signed by him. And then after 2006, when I got gored, my guy had left in 2005. So 2006, I get gored, and I call Red Bull, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to need that money, because I got medical bills. And they go, we don't have a contract for you this year.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? I go, I talked to him right before, and they're like, yeah, he left in January and he didn't put it in. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So they scraped up a little money and sent me, like $6,000 or $10,000. which was
Yeah.
which was nice of them, because honestly, they didn't have to, but I was the first person in rodeo to have a $5 million plus sponsorship.
Oh wow.
I remember that too, because you were dressed Red Bull from head to toe, right? No more baggies.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of went to a superhero look.
And
Yeah.
you wore like
Wow.
a do rag and stuff. It was pretty
Yeah.
cool. You
So-
fought that way at Salinas, right?
Yeah.
$5 million contract.
Yeah.
Wow. Per year or
Per year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Now it was all incentive based and
Uh-huh.
everything. Like, I don't know if I know you have sponsors and you probably have
Not like that, man.
Well, but your sponsors, are they incentive based too? Like, if you make the finals,
Yeah,
you get a
yeah,
bonus.
yeah,
If you win the world,
absolutely.
you get a bonus. And that's
Absolutely.
how mine was.
Yep,
Wow.
So it was like I had to accomplish, everything under the sun in order to get that $5 million.
I mean, but
I
even
never
if
got
you,
the $5 million, but I had
I'm
a
sure-
contract.
Yeah. Wow.
I was like,
mean,
and to
still-
this day, I think it's still the biggest contract ever in the history of
I
it.
couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would think
That's-
so.
Holy moly. That's
Yeah.
so the American Gladiator, the big triangle thing, at the tower.
Pyramid.
Pyramid.
Yeah,
How
Love it.
tall is that thing? I mean, is it 30
it's
foot?
probably about 30, 40 foot.
I mean, I seen the people get tossed off that thing. That's the most dangerous thing of the
Yeah,
whole.
it really, a lot of the stuff we did was really
Yeah.
dangerous.
I used to love the guns with the-
pyramids.
Yeah,
You shoot the
gun.
gun.
Because like I threw a guy from almost the top. He was such an asshole. I hated him. My goal was to break
Hurt him.
something on
Wow.
him. If I would have broke his neck, I wouldn't have felt bad. But
Yeah.
he had come up. I'd already knocked him down a few times, and he gets up there and he grabs my feet and tries to pull me. Well, when he did, there's a wrestling move
Mm-hmm.
called the sunset flip, and it's where you dive over the opponent, and as you do, you wrap your hands around their waist, and as you flip, you pull them over, and then you pin them.
Oh, okay.
Well, then there's another version of it called the Canadian Destroyer, where when they put you up on the top post and they start to climb up, you go over them and you basically power bomb them from the top rope.
Wow.
Well, this guy goes to grab my feet and tries to pull me off, and I look and I see that move in my head. So I just dove over and grabbed him by his waist and literally power bombed him 30 feet down to the
Ooh.
very bottom. And I'm surprised he didn't break his neck. He did not come back up the pyramid after that. He kept standing there and flexing and, trying to act all tough. And I just stood at the top going, "You're wasting time. You don't win if you don't get up to the top." And he never moved back towards me.
Hollywood, before we went to break, we were kind of talking through American Gladiators and everything. But
Right.
you were telling me something pretty interesting that ESPN's doing. What's that all about?
Yeah, ESPN. I had a production company reach out to me a couple years ago wanting to do, it was during COVID, and they wanted to do a documentary type deal about the American Gladiators. And so they were like, it doesn't pay anything, we just, we'll cover your costs to come out to LA, and everything was locked down. So I was like, well, that's a trip, that's something to do. And if it gets me any kind of coverage on TV or whatever, wherever they sell this, it just helps keep my face out there.
For sure.
And was Gina Carano going to be there?
No.
No.
So I went out
Just a
and,
question, I'm a fan.
got to stay in a hotel for a couple nights and, did this interview about 2-hour long interview, and then came home. Well, then it was getting about October, November or something, maybe October. And, we talk about positivity, and I always talk about God and how important he is in my life. And I had just been at a charity golf tournament, and I'm, playing golf, and I look and there's a notification comes through on my phone saying that my credit card only has $145 left on it. And I'm just like, all right, well, Lord, I need about $10,000, and that afternoon I get a text from a lady saying, "Hey, you still do real estate?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, yeah." And so I sold her son a house, and then like the next week I'm out having lunch with Jake.
Yeah.
And
Shout out to Jake Jacobson, your number one rodeo.
and,
owner.
he as we're leaving, I get a call from this guy, and they want to do this interview, out in LA and everything. Or no, we'd already done the interview. So he calls me that day that we're leaving lunch with Jake, and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "We just sold the idea, so we're gonna have to film you some more, and it's gonna be for 30 ESPN, 30 for 30."
That's
That's
cool.
cool.
And I'm like, "Oh, right on," So I started getting everything lined up, with my whiskey, with
There you
with
go.
everything, and that way when they come, because they're going to come film me, so they'll film me, at the whiskey company making the whiskey, and that way when people see the 30 for 30 and they see the whiskey, they're going to want to buy it. I go out and talk to John Rich, and I'm like, "Hey man, I can get you on ESPN, and Big and Rich on ESPN if I'm touring with Big and Rich,
There you go.
opening for you." And he's like, "Well, we don't do like big tours like the others, we do one-offs, but we can give you about 10 shows."
That's cool.
And I'm like, right on. And so then like a whole nother year goes by, and I'm like, keep reaching out to these guys, like, when are we going to film? When are we going to film? When are we going to film? And they finally reach back out and they go, "Yeah, we got enough, with that 2-hour interview that we did." So we decided to go a different way with this whole deal. And I'm like, great, so I was pissed. I was, I hung up the phone and I'm just, going off. And my wife's like, "What's the deal? They're still paying you, right?" And I mean, and they paid me pretty handsomely for it. But I'm like, yeah, but
Yeah.
I got all this stuff lined up, and this could have just exploded my career and got me back on top. And, I go, now, and she's like, "Well, I mean, if they mention you, if they at least show a little bit of it," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's true," so hopefully they don't edit, my version of it down to 3 seconds and make me look like an asshole, because you can edit anything, and I know that there was some things that were said in that interview that taken out of context can make me look like an asshole, which at the same time, I'm like, but if it does, I mean, that was my character as Wolf, I was an asshole on the show. So people would just be like, right on. I love that dude. He's just an ass, So we'll see. It's supposed to come out like May 30th or something. I don't know, but it's supposed to be at the end of this month. The ESPN 30 for 30 about American Gladiators, and so we'll see how it turns out. I think it's going to be more about the old gladiators from the original series, and about Johnny Ferraro himself, who is the man that started American Gladiators, but there's a whole twist to it because there was another guy that was with him when they first started the American Gladiators, and it sounds like, Johnny might have screwed him out of the deal or something. So it's like the way I saw a commercial.
TV.
Oh, the way I saw this commercial, it's like sex, drugs, murder, like all kinds of, it's like, damn, so I can't wait to see it.
So we've brought her up a couple times, but why don't we talk about one of my favorite people in the world?
Sherry Yates.
Sherry Yates is literally one of my favorite people in this whole world, and that's Hollywood's wife. Yes. And I mean, you want to talk about ride or die? That lady is awesome. Ride or die.
She is.
What I mean, I know what she's up to, but why don't we let these guys know and the listeners know what she's been up to for the?
Well,
she's now Hayden's, my daughter's literal hero.
She has been, from the time she was 18, she wanted to, be in like a bodybuilder. She watched Rachel McClish and Corey Everson and all those girls and just thought, wow, I would love to look like that. But never thought she could. Then at 39 years old, she started competing. Wow. And she won her first show, and then she did like 6 national shows a year for 3 years. So she was always lean and ready. And then she took a few years off, then came back, won a pro qualifier, but you had to win the whole show. And she only won her division. So she didn't get her pro card. Then she took a few more years. Right? So it's kind of been this back and forth deal. But she finally, last November, right before the NFR, went and competed and won her pro card. So now she's an IFBB pro figure competitor. Wow. And so she's getting ready for her first pro show, which will be in September, I believe September 6th or 9th up in Washington. Wow. Which I'll already be up there because my band's playing the Ellensburg Rodeo. So it's cool. I'll just stick around and, we'll do that. But I know you also want to mention someone else.
Who's that?
Gina Carano.
Oh, yeah. I like Gina, too. I don't think I like Gina as much as I like Sherry.
Oh, no.
Sherry's my favorite.
Gina's not as cool as Sherry,
No, not at all.
She's not as beautiful as Sherry.
And I got to do a shout out real quick. Donna, Holloway.
Yeah, Jake's
She's
mom.
your biggest fan. She wanted to say hello.
Oh,
Yeah,
you tell
she
her
was
hi.
at the SRP rodeo in the front row.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. She was waving with both hands. I
Very
remember that.
cool.
Me and Jake were talking about it. He goes, "You better tell someone about my mom." So,
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. She's cool.
Hello, Donna.
Shout out Steve too.
Oh, yeah. Steve's a good dude.
Yes,
Steve
sir.
was probably there waving too.
Yeah.
But a lot cooler. Like
Yeah.
He's
The
the one that
whiskey.
took his shirt off, right?
Yeah, maybe one
That's what I
hand or
thought.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not both hands
Yeah.
going.
Donna is your biggest fan for sure.
So
Awesome.
let's talk about this whiskey. We're all drinking it.
I like it.
Yeah, we're all drinking it. What do you got to say about it? I mean,
You know,
tell us a little story about it.
you want the whole story?
Sure. I don't know. Whatever you want to tell. I mean,
I love
but
the bottle.
it's
That
good.
bottle's
The bottle's
badass.
sweet. I like the Le Cork idea
Yeah.
here. That's pretty
And
sweet.
Rockstar
Well,
rodeo rock.
All right, so I'm gonna tell you the whole story. I wanted to start a whiskey company at some point, and I thought this is way down the road. And I called my buddy John Rich up because he has. Well, I originally called him up about just trademarks,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked a long time about trademarks. But then I called him up and told him I wanted to come out and just hang out with him for a day and just kind of just be around it. I hadn't been anywhere. It was, after 2020, everything, had been shut down, and I needed to go somewhere. I needed to get out, and I needed to hang out with somebody smarter and better than me. That's the way I have always said, surround yourself with people that are better and smarter, and it will raise you up. If you go play tennis with me, you're going to play shitty tennis.
Yeah.
You go play tennis with Andre Agassi or,
Mhm.
Somebody like that, you're going to play a much better game.
For
and
sure.
You're going to be a much better tennis player. So I called John. I went out to Nashville one day and just hung out with him for a little while. And we talked about trademarks and this and that. And he got to talking about his whiskey company and how he started it. Well, as he's telling me this, I'm like, well, I could probably do that now. I'm like, I was thinking this is 10 years, down the road that I was going to have to come up with, $1 million to start a company. And he's like, no, and so we talked about all the ins and outs, and I came home and I called a buddy of mine up, Brandon Shelton.
Uh-huh.
I was like, hey man, let me talk to you about this. And this is what I want to do. And this is the name and this. And he was like, man, that sounds good. He goes, can we get John on the phone? And called John up, and Brandon got on the phone.
Which was crazy when we called John
Yeah.
Rich, because we just called him, from my kitchen, and Sarah comes in and she sees me and Wood on the phone, and we're just talking to this guy like I'd be bullshitting with one of you guys on the phone, and she's like, I was like, yeah, it's John Rich. And this dude was so freaking cool to be on the phone with.
And he knew, like, when I introduced Brandon, I told him, I go, look, I've known Brandon for a long time. I go, he's got a company now. I go, he's opening up. I go, he's got cattle, his own cattle and everything. I go, but he just bought this meat pack plant, Well, he starts basically telling Brandon about his business.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. The
You
beef
know.
jerky business.
Yeah.
Yeah, because John's into everything.
Mm-hmm.
That dude
And-
is sharp, dude.
So we talked to him and everything, and we got off phone, and I was like, you in? And Brandon's like, I'm in. And so we drove down to San Diego and checked this place out for bottling and talked to that guy. And we tasted a little bit of his whiskey, and we came back and, we were going to do this. But then the USDA came in.
Oh,
They
yeah.
kind of messed with Brandon.
Mhm.
And so he had to kind of pull out because, his money got tied up in that. And I was like, all right, well, it is what it is. And so then my guy called me and he's like, hey man, I can get those barrels a lot cheaper than what I had originally planned. So man, I was like, all right, I found an open credit card and just did it.
So, you come up with a recipe yourself, or how did that work?
No, actually this guy, he had his own recipe for his, and it tasted good,
Mhm.
so I was like, well, he goes,
That's when we were over there tasting it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
and it was good, it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was good. And so I was like, yeah, it's good enough for the first batch,
Yeah.
and then we can work on the flavor and everything. And so I ended up buying 3 barrels of whiskey, and they delivered them to San Diego, and they sat there for a year because I couldn't afford bottles.
Mhm.
Couldn't afford, and you couldn't find glass, because of, everything. And I wanted it to be 100% American too. I didn't want to buy glass from China. I didn't want it like the stopper is from America. The glass bottles are made in America. The whiskey's made in America. Everything about this is 100% USA. And it's kind of like John Rich said. We tout USA so much, and being an American,
better be doing it.
We'd be hypocrites if we made something using China product. So. So this 100% American, well, I couldn't find glass, so those barrels sat there for another year aging.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally the guy called me and he's like, hey man, I got a guy that wants to buy those barrels from you because he's running out of whiskey. And I'm like, yeah, but then I don't have any whiskey. And he goes, you don't have bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, give me 24 hours. And I made a call to a guy and he goes, man, he goes, I don't know if I can find them. And I said, find them. He goes, give me 24 hours. And I go, well, I told this guy, give me 24 hours. I go, so you got 22 hours. And he actually called me back in about 8 hours. And he goes, I can get you 2 pallets of bottles. And I'm like, all I need is 1, man.
Yeah.
I go, here's my credit card and send them down to San Diego. So he sent them down. We bottled them. And I went down and picked up the first 10 cases and came home and, now I've just been pretty much sampling it out everywhere and getting people interested. And so far, everybody loves it. It's a lot smoother. Like when I got there, the guy goes, "You want to taste it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it was so much better than what he had let us taste at his before. Mm-hmm. And all his guys are like, "These are the 3 best barrels of whiskey we've had in here in 10 years."
So I got a question. So you said that you went and bought them 3 barrels. Is there like, I mean, it's crazy, but is there like just like a warehouse and then guys like you can go and buy a certain amount and put their own name on it?
There's 3 big manufacturers of whiskey. I mean, there's, probably hundreds of manufacturers, but there's 3 really big ones. And this company that I get my whiskey from is out of Indiana. Okay. They're the 3rd largest whiskey manufacturer.
And they sell barrels to the public or whatever.
They sell barrels to a lot of the other companies. So like, when you're going into Total Wine and buying, you'll see, 200 whiskeys on the shelf, and I would say 75 of them are all through the same, deal. Now, flavoring's different. They've done different things to them, but the base whiskey is all the same.
The barrel. So how much can you make on a barrel as far as?
Well, 3 barrels of whiskey got me 888 bottles.
8 of those.
Yeah. And so, and it'll be, they said just depending on evaporation, mm-hmm. and you'll get 800 to 1,100 mm-hmm. bottles, just depending on, the evaporation rate.
Huh. It was crazy. This place we went in there, man, and we were doing all these tastings, and it was hard to taste the whiskey and then like kind of cleanse your palate for the next one. Yeah, they had like peanut butter whiskey and they had all chocolate whiskey. They had all kinds of different flavors that we tasted. It was pretty fun.
Was the pricing because when you had to put it in those bottles, was that that cost you the most? Just getting from the barrel to the bottle?
Yeah, now the barrels are costing more. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why the one guy wanted to buy my 3 barrels was because the barrels doubled in price. Mm. And I haven't checked in the last year to see if they've gone up even more, but it's like, so that's where
what causes that? Like the double, I mean, is that just like everything else? Cost of fuel, cost of
everything.
I think it's cool that you could go buy a barrel.
Yeah. Right? Well, you have to have a license to buy a barrel, and that's the thing. It's, that for this bottle, the person that makes the most off of this bottle of whiskey is the United States government.
Shocker.
Because in order to make the whiskey, you have to have a special license to make it.
Imagine.
In order to sell it, you have to have a special license. So they have to have 2 licenses. Plus they get taxed.
Yeah.
So now that they've just got hit, 3 times by the government. Now, in order to truck it and deliver it, you have to have a special license. You can't just put it on. Like I couldn't go to Indiana and get those barrels mm-hmm. and drive mine because I was like, well, I'll do it. When I heard how much it was going to cost to ship them, I'm like, I could drive my truck out there and get them a lot cheaper than that. And they go, you don't have a license to transport.
Gotcha.
They go, that's called bootlegging. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now that trucking company, they've got to have a special license. and they get taxed on it. So now it's been somehow, touched 5 times by the government. Now it gets to my guy that's bottling it. He has to have a special license to bottle it. Plus he's taxed on it. So that's 7 times. Now I've got to have special license in order to sell it to a distributor. That the distributor has to have a special license. Plus we're both getting taxed. So it's basically touched 9 to 11 times by the United States government before it's even sold to the public.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like,
well, I've heard a lot of times,
And then tax when it's sold to the public.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of old timers say that the one thing you can always say is wrong with the government is they're in charge of alcohol and can't make any money, right? Because they get money coming from every direction,
every angle, every direction. It's like, it's ridiculous, and that's where our government, they're overreaching entirely too much into our lives, period. With the shutdown, with trying to make everybody wear masks, with trying to make mandatory vaccinations, with it's like, I'm sorry, but it's there's coming a time, they thought that there was an insurrection. That wasn't an insurrection. That was like, really,
what's on the horizon for Hollywood Yates?
On the horizon, my goal is still to get back to the NFR as a barrel man.
How hard would that be? Because that guy that's there sucks.
It's you would think it would be a lot easier.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll just be honest with you. I think the guy sucks.
It's basically just getting the right rodeos. It's getting enough of the big rodeos to be seen by everybody so that they all vote you in. There is a kind of a clique going, right now, and there has been for, quite a few years. And I've stood up to them at the clown meeting every year at the NFR. Last year, I called a lot of them out. It was like I called one out on Facebook last year at the beginning of the year. And one of the others, he called our representative and was like, he's like, holy shit. He goes, Hollywood don't give a shit about anything, does he? And he goes, did he say anything that was wrong? He goes, well, no. He goes, but I mean, pretty brave of him to say that. He goes, really? He goes, you think that guy's going to stand up to him? He goes, nobody's going to stand up to Hollywood. He goes, because the first person that does is going to get their ass knocked out. And it's like, and I've always been that way, I mean, even before I was the size I am, I say what I mean what I say. And if you want to have a discussion about it, we'll have a discussion about it. You want to get in my face, and I'll stop that too, But so I'm just trying to find the right rodeos and get my name back out there because, when I went and did the Gladiators, everybody assumed that I quit. They're like, oh, he's retired and he's doing, TV and, he's a big star. And it's like, yeah, we filmed for 2 months. There's still 10 months out of the year I need to work.
You think that it's a physically demanding deal? I mean, are you worried about that?
Have you seen the barrel man at the NFR? It ain't that physically demanding.
Well, I mean,
Jesus
but I
Christ.
think that you would probably make it more. You'd probably want to play with them bulls a little bit more and stuff like
I would, but they don't allow the guys to do a whole lot. It's like you pretty much
entertainment.
When you get to the NFR, you're pretty much there as just a status out there, and in case they need you, but for the most part, they're not.
Is there any on that side of the arena? We always talk about Cesar, and the other day we had Eric Rogers on here and we were talking about fines. Is there a lot of fines down on that side? Like on that side of the arena?
We're talking about the government. The radio's
the government.
Yeah, I think the PRCA just looks at the government's rule book and does the same thing.
Yeah.
No, I got fined the very first year I was at the NFR because they just kept messing with me the whole week. Like I should have had a refight in the 3rd round. Me and Dwayne Hargo, we both should have had refights. We were 68 and 69. And all the other guys were high 70s. And it wasn't because we weren't fighting. It was because our bulls weren't fighting. So they should have given us refights, and they didn't. And so when I walked out, I'm cussing the judges and this and that. And, so the next night I get out there and I have a good bull and I fight the hell out of him. And at the very end, I spin around and I just kind of, did a gaze to him. And, so when you get to the NFR, they give you a check for the last place money. And that way you have money to spend while you're in Vegas. And then when you win money, they basically deduct that check out. Well, they gave me the last place money, you know, when we first got there, and then I took fourth place. That was the last whole money, so I took fourth place the last round. So the next day I go in to get all my stuff out of the locker room, and I jokingly go into the office and I go, "Hey, can I get my check?" You know, like I was trying to get double up. And the girl goes, and she starts looking through it, and I go, "I'm joking." I said, I took fourth place. And she goes, "Yeah, but we had made a mistake with your first check. So we actually do have a check for you." And she hands me a check for $1. For $1.
Tell me you framed that.
It's in my room. It's in my office with my back number and my $1 check from the 1993 finals. But it said on the board it said fine. I think it was a $500 fine and suspended 1 year. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I go,
suspended 1 year.
Yeah. So I go into Sean Davis's office, who was running the NFR at the time. And I go, "Hey, Sean," I go, "what the fuck is this?" I go, $500 fine and you're suspending me for a year. How do you expect me to pay a $500 fine if I can't go work?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, no, that Hollywood, you had a great fight last night." And I go, "Don't blow smoke up my ass. Tell me what I'm getting fined for." And he's like, "Well, I mean, man, again, that fight, that was good." And I'm like, "Shut up." I go, "And tell me what the fine's about." And he goes, "Well, I mean, at the end of your fight, you know, you did this." And he like looks around the room first to make sure nobody else, you know, and it's like, and it wasn't even that I like did the bird. I just, you know, arm in arm, you know, like, and I'm like, "So?" He goes, "Well, we just, you know, we felt that was conduct detrimental to sport." And I go, "Are you kidding me?" I go, "Every rodeo clown in the country has done that to a bull." I go, I got it from Rick Chapman when he did it at the '85 finals. I said, "That's where I first learned it." I go, you know, I said, "Every clown has done it." I go, "And last night when I did it, the whole crowd cheered and laughed. They thought it was great." I go, "So how can it be conduct detrimental to sport when the crowd loved it?" He goes, "Well, I mean, you know, we're on TV and, you know, sponsors, you know, they might back out because of it." And I'm just like, "Are you serious?" I go, "And I'm suspended for a year?" He goes, "Well, no, the fine is suspended for a year. As long as you don't do that again, then you don't have to pay the fine. But if you do it again, then you're going to have to pay that fine plus another fine." And I go, "Man, if I'd have known all of that," I said, "I wouldn't have done it to the bull. I would have turned around and done it to the NFRC."
Every year I go to the bullfighters only in Vegas, and I watch that, and man, that's some. I bring my kids, and sometimes I got like, because it gets a fence. That's some dangerous shit.
But me and Hollywood have talked about that before. Those bulls, those guys are fighting. Don't get me wrong, they're ranked, and I mean they're ranked and they're fast. But the bulls that these guys had to fight are bulls like you're sitting at the sale barn in a big old crossbred.
Well, yeah, like we fought crossbreds. You know, they don't fight crossbreeds anymore. So and that's a whole different game.
Yeah.
You know, Cody Webster's starting to get some crossbreds. I talked to Dale Brisby, and he's got a few crossbreds that he's starting to breed. And so they're coming.
Yeah,
they're coming. But like Dale said, you know, he goes, I turned 3 out the other day. He goes, nobody would go to him. He goes, the only person that would call for one was Cody Webster.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well, Cody's a badass, you know.
You can see over there towards the end of the week, them bulls, they kind of been doing it all week. And then, but the bullfighter has to put on a better show than you. Like you said, you got to, you know.
And these bulls, you know, the Mexicans they have, you know, they're not as seasoned, you know, like they keep them pretty fresh. They keep them young, you know. I mean, they're starting to get some ones that are a little older and they're getting smarter and, you know, but like when they just retired, you know, Hugh Hefner, I think was a bull, or Penthouse. Well, it was Penthouse fighting bulls, and I think it was Hugh Hefner was the bull.
Yep.
And they retired him, you know, and he was still a great bull. You know, I'm like going, man, they would have fought that bull for 10 more years and you'd been fighting that, you know, that bull at, you know, 12 years old.
Yeah. How old was Crooked Nose in his career?
Oh, Crooked Nose. I mean, they were still fighting him. Let's see, they fought him. I think the last time they fought him was 89. And that might have been here in Scottsdale. And then I think that bull started early '80s. I know in '85.
So he was real smart.
So he was smart,
Yeah.
and older, and he was big. He was probably 1,800, 1,900 pounds.
Wow.
But like we had bulls that I fought bulls that were going down the road for 10 years, and they were just so smart.
Getting smarter every mile.
Like Rex would try to keep his pens pretty fresh, so he would sell his old bulls that were getting, too smart and too nasty. He would sell them to Harper, and then Harper would put them out in bullfights for another 4 to 5 years, and it's like, I was just like, first time I went there, and I had avoided Harper's pens because I was like, they're usually uneven. And then you get these smart suckers that just bay up in the corner and make you come running in, and they wait for you to make the mistake, and then they kill you. And
did you ever fight bulls at Mr. Lucky's?
Yeah, I actually, myself and Matt Lucking, when they first started Mr. Lucky's bull riding,
there's a bullfight.
They had me and Matt. We started that whole thing, and tried to help them out, get it started. And then, we were doing it for like $50, and I'm like, I'm an NFR bullfighter, man. And, but I was wanting to help them because these are guys that I started with. And so we helped them get it started and everything. Once they were getting it packed and they had people there, I was like, you need to come up on the pay a little for us. And they're like, well, oh, no, we can't, and I'm like, well, then I'm done,
It was way before my time, but everybody I've ever talked to, like
we were there.
The singers, that sang there, like,
oh, yeah.
Merle Haggard and everybody.
Merle, Waylon,
Dirk Bentley sang there.
Really? Keith Urban sang there.
Keith Urban,
first time he came over from Australia, sang
That's
there.
crazy. I mean, I wish I wish I could have been there for some of that. But the bull riding, and I've heard a lot of stories about that place.
I was there Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday night, every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday night for years and years with Brett Fight and Jamie Self.
Yeah.
When they took the bulls for Richard Mercer, we'd go and I'd help them. And man, you're right. That place would get.
Oh, yeah. It was awesome.
I mean, and if you couldn't get in a fight inside, you could surely get in one outside. If that's what you were looking for.
I mean, Jake has told me some stories about. Yeah. He's told me a lot of stories about old Mr. Lucky's.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun at Mr. Lucky's.
Oh man, everybody.
I had a lot of fun out in the parking lot.
Yeah, you learned a lot of things in that parking lot. Yeah, a lot.
If you ever want to see all those girls from Mr. Lucky's, they're all moved to Texas now.
That's fine. What's the difference between fighting them crossbreeds and then the Mexicans? I know the Mexicans are a little smaller, a little quicker, maybe, but
they're smaller, faster.
There's some power in the crossbreeds, right?
And they normally will just keep coming.
Yeah.
Whereas the crossbreds, when they hit you, it hurts a lot worse because they hit you harder. If they get you down and they mash on you, it's a lot more weight on you. But the biggest difference with them is they bay up more. They slow down. They wait on you. Like I said, they'll bait you and they make you work. Whereas the Mexicans, you can make them do most of the work.
Yeah.
And, as long as you're throwing good fakes, you can step through and fake and move and, make them do most of the work. Whereas those crossbreds, they make you work. They make you come to them. They make you make the mistakes.
Who is some of your, maybe give us your top 3 all-time greatest bullfighters?
Top 3 greatest bullfighters of all time.
You want my 3 first?
Freestyle or cowboy protection?
Maybe let's go both.
All right, cowboy protection. I would say best cowboy protectors in my book.
This would be good for a short.
I would say Matt Lucking, Jeff Kovza. And I'll give Dusty Tuckness his props.
That's cool.
He's solid. He's solid. Like I came up with Joe Bumgardner, and Joe Bumgardner was great.
Man.
He was the GOAT.
Like Mr. Smooth at Bumgardner.
And I kind of put you on the spot with only 3 because there's
so many. I mean, and Rick Chapman was my hero. And Rick Chapman, he's the only Triple Crown winner that worked the national finals, won the world, and won Clown of the Year all in the same year.
Wow.
So
I know you have a spot for Smiths, right?
Yeah, I like Rob Smiths, but if I had to pick my 3, it'd probably be Hollywood Kovza, and man, my third one would be tough between Matt Lucking and Greg Roomer.
Oh yeah,
Greg Roomer was a stud, dude.
Yeah.
Greg. Yeah, he
no
was
vest,
a badass.
no nothing. That dude was wild.
He was just tough.
No
he was
vest,
double
no
tough.
vest.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, he just
Wow.
double
Yeah,
tough.
you can watch some old like clips of Greg Groomer, man, and he's just out there just
And he was
hauling
great,
for 'em.
and he was a great cowboy protector and a great freestyle. Like I think he went to the national finals 13 times.
Oh wow.
As a freestyle bullfighter.
Wow.
You know,
Who's with the most? Maybe Bumgardner.
I think Baumgartner's worked the NFR more than anybody, but Dusty's closing in. Dusty might pass him this year or tie him this year. I don't know.
And what was the guy's name that always worked with Bumgardner? I can't remember his name.
Shorty Gorm.
No.
Frank Newsom?
No.
Oh,
Lloyd Ketchum.
Lloyd
Ketchum.
Lloyd Ketchum.
Yeah.
I remember that guy.
Lloyd had these knee braces that just squeaked all the time. Just squeak, squeak, squeak. You'd hear him walking down the hall. Squeak, 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 squeak. And Miles Hare finally I think it was Miles Hare, finally got a hold of him in WD-40. And Lloyd put him on, and they didn't squeak, and it freaked him the fuck out. Like, he was like, who messed with my knee? You know, like, it was great.
What's your favorite NFR memory? I mean, rodeo memories would be huge, but just NFR memory. Like,
Just NFR.
What's your favorite?
Probably the night that I had Dr. Kevorkian. I think it was the third round NFR. And I know I'm winning this round, you know, and I think Smets had rookie. And so he's like, I got fight bull of the year. And I'm like, I'm still going to beat your ass. I was like, because I've got Kevorkian. And then Kevorkian, he either killed you or you won the round, you know. And I get out there and I make like a step through a round, and I'm coming around and he catches me and flips me in the air. And I come down in front of him on my knees, and he puts a horn right over my left ear and just splits my head and tears my ear partially. And it rolls me over, and he hooks me in the back and picks me back up on my feet, and I just keep moving. Like the fight never stopped.
Yeah,
you know, it was just a scramble. You know, like I mean, it was the first MMA fight. Like, you know, it was badass. And I get done, and I'm with my at the time my girlfriend, my wife now of 20. Let's see, we've been together 26 years or 24 years. That was the first year we were together, and she's there. She worked for a plastic surgeon. So I get in, I get cleaned up, I go up, and Doc is like, you know, you're fine. And I go up, and I'm still bleeding and everything. And she's like, how many stitches did it take? And I go, oh, he said I was fine. And she like grabs it, and it's bleeding. It's still wide open. And she's like, you get back down there and you get it. And so I go back down. And as I'm coming off the elevator, J. Pat is getting on the elevator, you know, legendary, you know, Justin Healer guy. And I'm like, J. Pat, you know, my girl says I need to get some stitches in there. And he's like, Hollywood, he goes, I'm late for dinner. He goes, I don't have time to stitch you up. He said, if your hair was any longer, you could just tie it. He goes, just put some pressure on it until it stops bleeding. And I've got to go play in a poker tournament, a charity poker tournament that night. So where we get in the truck, I go back up, I go, he doesn't have time to do it. And she's like, are you kidding me? You know, she's like, that would take at least 20 stitches by my doctor. And so we're driving to the Gold Coast Hotel.
Tell her, welcome to rodeo, honey.
Yeah. And as we're heading to the Gold Coast Hotel, I'm like, you know, check my truck. I'm like, you know, there should be a bandana or a towel or something in here that I can put up here. And we had cleaned the truck out so that it was nice for the NFR and everything. She could not find anything, and so she took her panties off.
Of course she did.
I held panties on my head through the whole poker tournament while I played poker. So that's probably one of my favorite memories.
That is a pretty awesome story. Man, the Gold Coast. I haven't heard that name in a while.
Remember the vest everybody had, remember?
Yeah, and then all the halters.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and the Gold Coast. That was good.
The Gold Coast, it was the greatest place to be at the NFR. It will never be duplicated. You know, it was like there was two places to be when you were at the NFR, and it was the Gold Coast and the Stardust for Ricky and the Red Streaks. And neither one of those deals will ever be duplicated ever again in the history of rodeo. They can have all their cool parties that they want to have. You know, they can have Nelly play, whatever. They will never have the Ricky and the Red Streaks, just the vibe and the deal. It was so outlaw. It was so just rowdy, rebel. I mean, anything could happen at one of those shows. And then at the Gold Coast, you never knew what was going to happen. Fights break out, people standing on poker tables. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun time because the owner, he was a cowboy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, man. They really catered to the Cowboys. I mean, I was
matter of fact, Steve Fexer was the man that kind of headed everything up for all the Cowboys. And God rest Steve Fexer. He just passed away yesterday. And so a shout out to Steve because he took care of us Cowboys. I don't think I paid for a room at the Gold Coast for about 10 years. Wow. Because he took care of all of us.
Yeah, I remember I was in there, some fights broke out, and I mean, if you were wearing a cowboy hat, you were taken care of at the Gold Coast. Like they kicked everybody else out, and you were all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun place, pretty fun time. You and Smets had some beef. I mean, we'll call it that because it's a podcast.
Smets and I, we butted heads, our whole career because he was the young, hot thing, when he came up and, just was beating everybody. And then I came along and, here I'm a rookie and I'm beating everybody on the circuit. And I go to the NFR my rookie year. And so, I was, the new guy. And so we kind of butted heads and everything. And, we had issues throughout the years. There was one year where we were all trying to boycott a deal, and there was a kid that I had helped get his card, and he was going to lose all his rodeos if we all boycotted and everything. And I told the kid, I'm like, look, just stick with us. It'll be okay, but if it gets down to they're about to buck that bull in that stock sale and you need to go fight that bull to save your jobs, then you go down there. And he's like, yeah, but Smets, Smets, and I'm like, you don't worry about Smets. And so Smets comes over and talks to me and he goes, hey man, he's got to stick. And I go, he's going to stick with us. I go, but if it comes down to he has to do it in order to save his jobs, I told him to go down there. I go, and you're not going to do anything about it. I go, if you think you are, I said, then you and I are going to roll around this Tolleson-Mack arena for a couple hours and we're going to be a bloody mess when it's over. I go, I'm not sure if I can beat you. I go, but I guarantee you can't beat me. I go, we'll be a bloody mess. And so we had, some moments like that throughout the careers. But we never got into it. We always had good fights. We were in Salinas one year and he had won the round and he was in at the bar, partying with his buddies because he was from Salinas, and me and Gary Jones were working the bull riding with Joe Bumgardner. And so as we're coming back out, Smets yells out the window of the bar. He's like, hey, Hollywood, haven't you figured out this is my backyard? And I looked up and I go, the only reason it's your backyard is because I haven't pissed all over it. I go, but you get ready. I said, because tomorrow I'm going to piss all over it and piss all over you. And the next day he comes up before, hey man, I'm sorry, I was a little drunk. And I go, you're not sorry. I said, you're sorry that it didn't work, and you're sorry that you pissed me off because you know I'm going to beat your ass. And I went out there and Gary Jones won the round. I took second and Smets took third, and so we had those moments. But I'll tell you this, when I got gored and I was in the hospital, Smets called me. And he was the only other man that I had known that had been gored like I had been. He had already had, 2-3 broken necks. So he was the only other guy that I knew had career-ending injuries that should have been, done and came back from them. And he called me like every day for a week. Then he called me every few days for a week. And then he called me a couple times a week. Then he called me once a week, but he kind of helped me get through that, cool. And so, for the issues that I have with Rob, I also have a world of respect for him, and he's a 5-time world champion. I mean, there's some, of those years that I think, Donnie Sparks maybe should have won, so, but, you can say that about any sport, you can, say that, maybe Michael Jordan shouldn't have won every championship he had, but I mean, points are points, but yeah, you got bad calls, you got, so, but he's a 5-time world champion. He's the greatest freestyle fighter of all time. And, so my props go to him. I respect him for his abilities, and I respect him for, taking the time out to help me through some hard time. That's cool. So, I love the guy and I hate the guy.
Yeah.
With that being said, that's one reason. I mean, I've always respected you, right, as a bullfighter, cowboy, as a friend. But I got sick here a couple years ago, and I got COVID, got it real bad. and lost like, I don't know, 40, 50 pounds in the hospital for 2 or 3 weeks. And I mean, this guy was texting me every day. Then as soon as I got out of the hospital, he's like, "All right, where you at?" I said, "I'm at my house." "Okay, I'm on my way." And I mean, he lives in Peoria, an hour and a half away, and he just come to my house to sit on my couch to talk to me. You know, and remember I had like all the oxygen mask and shit on, and I could hardly talk because I had all those tubes down my throat. So
I'm leaving, going. I probably got COVID now.
hopefully he wasn't contagious. Yeah, he pushed me around in my wheelchair a little bit, but so when you say that about that, man, that really does hit you differently when somebody calls you like that. Because I mean, Smuts didn't have to call you. I mean,
No, he didn't have to.
He didn't have to, but I mean that kind of shows he's a good dude. And I've always wanted to tell you that I really appreciated you coming that day. And I mean, you know, it just for what it's worth, it meant a whole lot to me. So
I love you, brother. And I, appreciate everything that you've done for me over the years. And,
sure.
You know.
So, all right, what's maybe your one regret? Like, what did you want to do that you didn't do? You know, I don't know.
Or
yet.
Or
yet to do, or get something out of it.
You know, it was funny because when I did my first album, I said I was going to name it No Regrets, No Apologies, because I really don't have any regrets in life. And I don't usually really apologize for anything because, you know, what I might have done when I was drunk, that wasn't me. That was drunk Hollywood, you know. So as a sober man, I can't, you know, apologize for who the drunk guy did. You know, like that's a different guy. But and in regrets, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes in life. But I've learned from them all, you know, so I don't really have regrets. You know, I look back and WWF had told me to come back, you know, after my contract was up with Gladiators, and I had a year non-compete clause, so I had to wait for that. And I did go back to WWF to you know, become a WWE wrestler. And when I got there, I was waiting to talk to the guy about it. And while I was waiting for him to get out of some meetings, I talked to Hunter and to Stephanie McMahon, and you know, we kind of went over some ideas, and everything was fine. And then security walked over and was like, "Hollywood, I don't have you on the list." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I'm not here to work tonight. I just came to talk to Johnny and tell him that my contract's up, my non-compete's up, so I'm ready to come back to work." And he goes, "But I don't have you on the list." And I'm like, "I understand that. I just happened to be here in the same town the same night you guys are here, and I figured I'd come down and talk to Johnny. I'm just waiting for him to come out of his meeting." And then, like, he kicked me out. And as I'm walking up the ramp, I'm going, "Do I really want to work for a company that everybody's so worried about their job that they can't even use common sense, and they can't, you know, just be polite, and, you know, just like I wasn't hurting anything. I was walking around saying hi to everybody."
And you had worked there before.
I had worked there before, and he knew me. The security guy knew me, like, you know, and I was like, "I just don't think I want to work for a company that's like that." And so I never, you know,
never went back.
called Johnny, and I never went back. And, you know, about 2 years later, I was thinking about going back, and I talked to a buddy of mine that had been announcing for them for 12 years and had been fired. And I was like, "Yeah, I keep thinking about going back." And he goes, "Best thing that ever happened to me was getting fired, man." And now he's with TNA, announcing for them, because I guess it's a whole different feel. But you know, so, like, you know, is there a regret there? I don't think there's a regret. Do I wish I had gotten back in for a year or two with WWE, and, you know, been at the top of the game, you know, and had, you know, the action figures and all that, and had a, you know, to where I was getting residual income from WWE for the rest of my life, you know. Yeah, I don't know if those guys do get that, you know, like, so again, no real regrets about it.
My question is, like, you know, you talk TNT. Is that like the minor leagues for the WWE?
No, actually, it's.
I mean,
WWE they split off, and they started their own deal. TNA started their own deal, and
is the pay the same?
Now?
I mean,
it's AEW now. There's AEW split off and did their own thing, and It was just the boys, like none of the office. It was just all the boys that got fed up. And they went and started their own deal, and like Jericho's over there,
ERA,
same thing.
ERA, same thing.
So how I see it is like there's the top guys. There's like brackets to this, you know. And I might be wrong. I'm just saying like they get paid so much money, and then is that how it goes?
So basically WWE was the top game, and then everything else was kind of But then WCW started up, and they were right there battling each other, and they were not together. Then at some point Vince bought WCW, and so then it became a deal where yes, they were all the same, employed by the same man, and it was Vince McMahon. Then another deal started, and it was not owned by Vince, and so it's like, but Vince outlasts everybody. WWE always outlasts everybody, But now with this new one, they're doing really well. They're doing really well, and I don't know if it'll ever merge and become, owned by the same company again. Because right now they're doing great.
Do most of them guys have to have a second job, or can they make
those guys are wrestling 3-4 days a week.
That's all they do.
Yeah, what's those top guys make?
I think basically when you get into professional wrestling, if you can get to the WWE or one of those deals like that, I think your base salary, is like $65,000 to start, which is not a lot, because you still have to pay for your hotels, you still have to pay for everything, and you're on the road, 300 days a year, because they're on the road 4 days a week. Yeah, basically, they're home for 2.
They don't take care of hotels or none of that? Really?
They take care of the flights. WWE takes care of flights.
Vince just sold that thing for $9 billion.
I see why he saved some.
With a B.
Whoa.
And then, I mean, you have these big companies that, they're business, and they come in and they buy things like that, like the UFC.
They're now owned by the same people.
Same company owns the UFC, PBR, and
the WWE.
And is it the same? Yeah. So it's like
the guy's name is the guy that runs it. His name's Ari, and he runs it. Yeah, and they own all of that. And I mean, that's taking it to the next level.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I mean, now I guess now you're playing a lot of music.
Now I'm doing a lot of music. Still doing everything that I've always done. But doing a lot of music. We just did a tour down to Texas and played in Deming.
Oh yeah,
you got me hooked up with those people over there. They were great.
And shout out to Deming, New Mexico. That's kind of a drive-by town if you're rolling through there. But if you ever stop, that is a cool place.
It's a cool little place, And the place we played was the Star Max, and it's a bar / bowling alley / arcade / movie theater / 18-hole putt course.
Course.
In the dark.
Don't forget the golf course.
Yeah. So we had a blast there. Everybody was great, so we'll go back and play there again. And then, I just today, after we talked, it's like I kind of been in a little bit of a funk, and just needed to kind of get my head out of my ass. And I talked to you this morning. I watched this deal with Conor McGregor, and was like, all right. Called another buddy of ours, Sergio, and was like, hey, man, and we had a nice little motivational talk as I was heading to the gym, and kind of got my head. I was like, all right, I just got to get focused again. And I mean, as quick as I said it, I got a text from a guy asking me if I was going to be in Reno. And I was like, wasn't planning on being in Reno, but I can be. And he's like, okay. And he hired me to come out and do some acoustic gigs up there during the Reno rodeo for his Calcuttas and Bob Tallman's team roping and stuff.
Bob Tallman Invitational.
Yeah, that used to be
up there.
Awesome
for that, and I'll do a few shows there, just me and my guitar, and I'll also be at the NFR this year at Westgate. Doing some acoustic stuff, and I'll be around town for the whole deal, just kind of hanging out. I'll go to some of the parties and everything and play some music, and but it's I'm really my goal from the time I was 7 years old was to be Elvis Presley. I knew there would never be another man with that kind of power on this earth where he just had that kind of talent and that kind of reach, and I was just amazed at that. how one man can affect the world the way he did,
shaking them hips.
And so that's my goal. It's my mom's like, well, when do you stop? Like when do you go, well, I'm just not gonna be able to get there, and when do you stop? And I go, when I die. I go, I don't ever stop. I have a goal.
Passion.
And if you stop, you will die.
Yeah. And that's the truth. It's like when I'm not hustling, when I'm not doing, on the road and doing everything, I get very depressed. I get into a state of self that is not healthy, and it destroys a lot. And I know everybody goes through it, and I think that successful people don't. I think successful people might even possibly go through it even harder, because the highs and lows in life, the highs and lows in rodeo, you're either on top or you're on the bottom.
It's a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster, and you have those times that are great, and then you have those times that are just devastating. And so the more I'm moving, it's kind of like a shark. If the shark stops swimming, the shark dies. And so you just keep moving, so my goal is to be Elvis rich and Elvis famous. And it's like I was telling you earlier, it's not because I want to go buy an island and disappear from everybody and just live and have all this wonderful, toys and everything. It's like I want to be Elvis famous so that I have a voice that can invoke change in the world, that can, go to Congress and go, get your heads out of your asses.
Yeah.
You guys, you got voted in by the people because they thought you were going to take care of them. So do that.
Yeah.
Take care of them. And if you don't, I have a voice that I can get people to vote you out, and we can put different people in, so I want to have that kind of power with my voice and with my position in life. And I want to be Elvis rich so that I can be Elvis generous. I want to be able to, if I'm doing a concert in town, do something. I know Kid Rock does this. He'll go into town and he'll read the paper and hear, that this family's car broke down, and he'll go pay to have their car fixed. And he doesn't do it so that people see that. He does it because he takes a lot of money out of that town and out of that community, and he wants to give some back. And he wants to help people, and it's like Elvis did that.
That's what you're supposed to do in a situation.
Yeah, it's when you're doing well, you're supposed to put a hand out and help others to do well. That's why I try to if you look at my Facebook and my Instagram, you will never see anything negative ever on my, and I try to post something every day. If you don't see anything posted for a week on my Instagram or my Facebook, I'm depressed. I'm in a bad spot in life, and I'm not in a positive mode. And rather than put anything negative into the world, I'll just dwell in my little, misery for that time until I can get my head out of my ass. And then I'll start posting positive stuff because I want to try to help other people raise up. There's already too much negativity in this world, and there's too much negativity on social media. If I wasn't trying to build a fan base, if I wasn't trying to get to a certain status in life in order to help others up, I would not have social media.
Yeah.
I would not have Facebook. I would not have Twitter. I would not have any of it because it can be so damaging. It can ruin people's lives. This is one of the greatest and worst inventions in the world.
I believe it.
The fact that,
Amen to that.
the fact that we can, do what used to take a, acre of computers, we can do it in our hand in 2 seconds by doing this. That's amazing. And that's awesome. I can buy my plane tickets. I can, set up appointments. I can write a book with my thumb.
You can buy a Rat Bastard energy.
You can buy a Rat Bastard energy drink. You can do so much with this.
But it consumes so much.
It consumes so much of everybody's lives. People wake up and before their eyes are even open, they're reaching for their phone and doing this.
Just walk into a restaurant next time and just look around.
Yeah,
it's so fucking sad.
It's called social media, but yet you're taking the social out of life. You're not really being social. You're spewing your bullshit to other people.
To get a reaction.
To get a reaction. And that's all you're doing is you're trying to get a reaction. Then when you get the reaction that you wanted, then you're pissed off about it, and it's like, and so it's just forming this just continuous stream of negativity. So I try to put just positive out and try to help, people realize that it's not that bad. Quit, turn your TV off. I don't watch the news.
We've been playing Monopoly at my house once a week.
Cool.
That's
we
awesome.
Literally leave all the phones in the living room and we all go in the other room and play Monopoly. And man, it is so much fun. Like we'll be like, oh shit, we've been 2 hours. Like 2 hours are gone like that. No TVs, no phones, no nothing.
I do not watch the news anymore because I don't need to hear the bullshit that they're spewing, because half of it's fake and the other half is just misery, so I just live in my presence and the people around me. I enjoy the time that I get to talk with people, and that's, I always get home and I'm like, I talk too much, but it's
we appreciate it.
But I enjoy having conversations with people. And if more people would have conversations with people and ignore the bullshit on their fucking TV, this world would be a much better place, because the division between right and left is not as big as they make it. There's some idiots out there, trust me, but it's on both sides. You've got
that's what I always say. It's both sides.
It's both sides. I'm an independent, and I've got friends that are Democrat, I've got friends that are Republican, and they're pretty much think the same way that I do. They might be a little more one way, a little more one way, but they're pretty much the same as me. And then I know some others that are just freaking lunatics that are way over there and they're way over there.
You're right.
And it's like, but if people would just talk more, it's like the division is not out there as bad as the media makes it sound. It's like, I mean, you look at rodeo, you look at sports, we're all playing sports, we're all rodeoing together, we're all loving each other, we're, taking showers together, like, I mean, it's not as bad. Now there are areas, and
there's idiots no matter.
And I was going to say, and there's
the
the far extremes, that are, just trying to, bait it and make it worse. And it's like, just talk and be positive and let's help each other. Let's just rise
They
up.
could do more stories.
The government's not going to help us, so let's help each other.
I mean, I see it too. I mean, every story you're going to see is going to be some kind of division. They can do stories that are good, and push out, where two guys got along and, car broke down, this guy helped him, but you never see nothing positive.
Charles Sampson was from Watts, and there were, I just saw a story, and I want to find out more about it, because where Charles Sampson first started learning about horses and being a cowboy was there in Watts. And it was this guy that he basically kept kids out of gangs by, you come here and you work with the horses and you do this, but you cannot be in a gang. Well, somebody burned it down, and I think they've rebuilt since, or went to a different location, but I want to do something to try to help them.
That's cool.
Awesome. Because it's like they did so much good for so many people, and Charles told me about how that's how he got started and became, 82 world champion, first African American or black cowboy to, however you want to politically correctly say it, but, and to me, Charles Sampson, I mean, he was the first black cowboy to win a world championship, but to me, he was just Charles Sampson. He was my friend, and like I'd go down and fight bulls at his house, and like I went down and lived with him for a little while just to help him get the place cleaned up, because he was going to put a big bull riding school on, so I stayed down there for like a week and helped him, he was just, Brother Charles, and but it started in Watts for him.
That's like, the Compton Cowboys, you heard of them? I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's just a good way to
there's
get
a place
them
in Chicago, same thing. It's like
Stefan that works for us. He's from Compton.
Really?
Yeah, and that's what he did. That's where he learned to ride horses.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And he went on. He worked for Sean Davis. He rode horses for Sean Davis, race horses for him, and that's where he learned. And he told me, he's like, "Man, you wouldn't believe how many horses are in Compton." I'm like, "No way." and he called his family over there, and they FaceTime me, and it looks like you're driving through Old Levine or Old
right.
Tolleson. There's horses everywhere.
So I went to the farm show in Tulare, and my wife and kids, they flew to Anaheim to go to Disneyland. So I rented a car, and I was about 6 hours ahead of the flight, so I had a lot of time. So I was like, well, when am I ever going to have time to go cruise through Compton real quick? So boom, rental car. So I'm like videotaping, and I see a SUV roll up next to me. I put it down real quick. So I went to call the Billionaire Burger Boys. It's right there on Compton Boulevard. You have to, if you're ever in Compton, I saw it on Diner and Dives or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I went over there, and you order, and I didn't know you have to take. It's just you go in, and you take your order, but you have to stand on the street. So I ordered, and I'm standing right on the sidewalk right there in Compton. And I was just a little bit out of place, but it was cool.
Yeah.
Well,
and nobody bothered you, did
No, not at all.
It's because it's not as bad out there.
And they were
it's not as bad as they say.
They knew I was at a place big time, but they were cool with me. So
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that closes it out. But I don't know about your guys' boat, but I think we got to have Wood back. We could have been here all night long.
I think he would be a perfect co-host with like another bring back of Shay Hillenbrand. I think him and Shay would hit it off.
Dude, but if him and Shay were on here,
Yeah,
we could just head
Just
outside.
take the-
We could stand back there with Craig, I think.
I think you and Shay need to hook
I
up.
won't. He can make you crying, and I'll bring you back.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks Hollywood, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, man.
You've always
I appreciate
done for
y'all
us
having
and
us.
everything, man.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. See you
Appreciate y'all
next time.
having me.
Yes, sir.